Are you surprised? Because I'm not surprised. Neal Brown and company fall flat on their face again in a big game. Burn it down. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name's Mountaineer Paul. This is another edition of Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every day, and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Guys, get the Game Time app, download it, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Here we go again, right? I had hope. I mean, call me a sucker. I'm a sucker, right? I had hope. I just wanted to talk myself into this so badly that it could happen. And I should have realized the two little numbers next to the Kansas State logo. If they weren't there, Neal Brown probably wins this game in West Virginia. It's not just Neal Brown. There are more people culpable than just Neal Brown. Obviously, Jordan Leslie, there are others. Like, it's not just Neal Brown, right? But you know, coming into tonight, man, as a fan first, I felt like this team, if they could get over this hump here, would be better than most of the teams left on the schedule. You saw Arizona get destroyed today. Cincinnati looks better than I thought they were, and so does Texas Tech. But I still feel like they were evenly matched teams, unlike tonight where it was just uneven. But this is very similar to last week in that some early things happened that affected the game, right? West Virginia just isn't able to capitalize on the slow start of both Iowa State and Kansas State. That's number one. And they couldn't help Garrett Green out in the beginning of the game. Two passes that come to mind, both were underthrown. One, the first play of the game, underthrown to Jaheim White, but it hit him both hands at the end of the day. Hit him in both hands. And then the one to Traylon Ray where he went like this, but it hit him in both hands. And when you have an inaccurate quarterback, you have to help him. You have to help him in those situations. You can't drop balls when they hit you in the hands when you have a quarterback that has trouble throwing it. But obviously this team has way more issues than just that. Right before the half, this is a game-changing play, right? Right before the half, you're fourth and goal, or fourth and one. All you need to do is run it for a first down. In my opinion, here's my logic anyway. You've got a quarterback that's struggling to see the field. You've got a defense that's one of the best red zone defenses in the country. The one thing you can hang your hat on is you lead the daggone nation in fourth down percentage and fourth downs gotten. I think they were 12 of 14 or something like that. And you need 1 yard to just get another 4 more sets of downs. You got 30 seconds left. You can punch it in, or at least try. You can at least die on that hill rather than going for it on fourth down and giving Garrett a run pass option when he's not seeing the field. There was pressure on him. Cole Taylor came open, but there was pressure. Then he gets tackled as he tries to throw it at the very end. C.J. Donaldson probably gets that yard. Not only that, but because you didn't do that, you compound your issues, because on that very play, Garrett Green gets rolled up onto Wyatt Milam. Had you just simply ran the ball, made your life a lot more simple, you would have got the first down. Whether it was the right play call or not, you can debate. And it's easy to look at it after the fact, but I just feel like this team in 4th and 2 or less should run the ball based on how it's built. I mean, if it doesn't go to Cole Taylor, who's it going to in those situations usually? Huddy Tuddy makes the occasional catch. Preston Fox has disappeared. Hudson Clement's mainly disappeared. Traylon Ray has really been the only receiver to get any separation. They had to hold him 2 or 3 times tonight to keep him from going deep and beating them. It's a poorly put together offense in a lot of ways. It's built to run the ball, and that's it. There's no other answers. If you could stop the West Virginia running game, there are really no other answers. Such a frustrating team to watch. With all that coming back off the 9-win team, albeit against a weaker schedule, you're supposed to improve year to year. You're supposed to improve year to year. They made Avery Johnson, who hadn't been much better than Garrett Green in passing situations. I think his percentage was a little bit better, but he's not what you consider he's not Rocco Becht, right? He hasn't been. He looks like he's going to improve, but they made the game so easy for him, right? They had 1 or 2 balls that went more than 15 yards down the field for him. Everything was 10 yards and in, easy throws in the middle of the field, dicing up the West Virginia zone. And I don't understand. Have you seen any plays like that for us this year at all? Are we incapable? Like those little underneath throws. Obviously, the way defenses play you has a lot to do with that, and I get that. But I just don't get it, man. It's very frustrating. And then you put Nico in the game when, come on, like I don't think it was fair to judge Nico off of any of that, although he had a couple plays that were nice. Certainly not going to judge Nico's the least of our worries and problems in this situation. Garrett Green is, I'll say this, man. Garrett Green, he puts his heart on the field. He leaves it all out there for us. I never doubted the dude's courage. I never doubted his toughness. And last year, I couldn't doubt much. But if you remember, I was a huge doubter coming into last year for Garrett Green. And he changed my mind over the course of that year. But the players we had last year to build a team that Neal Brown, we didn't replace. One of the biggest pieces from last year that you would never think mattered was Devin Carter, the NC State fifth-year guy that transferred in. He caught about 50 balls last year, but they were all down the field mostly. They were downfield possession receiver type plays. And then he had a couple deep balls as well. And then TJ, listen, Horton to take the top off the defense, what in my opinion was big last year too. And they used him as bait a lot to run people off. And then Traylon Ray caught people by surprise, in some games. But man, like, you went out and got these players. Where are these players? Where's everybody you went out and got? TJ Jackson has worked. I'll give you him. But you missed, like Drew Fabianich needs to be fired as well. Like, let's just go down the list of everybody that needs to be gone. I think Blaine Stewart's done a good job. Matt Moore has done an incredible job of the offensive line, and he was very maligned for years at West Virginia. And, man, has he put together a really good product. The offensive line has been amazing year on year every year. And then A.J. Jackson on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line, he keeps those guys ready to roll year in and year out now since Darius Stills was here. So he's not really an issue. And then Coons has the linebackers playing pretty well. Coverage, not so much, but they're young guys, and you're asking them to do a lot. And they don't have – if it's not Lathan and if it's not Trotter, who is it? Like there's really nobody else to roll in there because those are your main guys. They're on the field all 3 downs. It's not fair. And then, of course, when you have Tyron Bradley as your third linebacker, all teams have to do, and it's happened all freaking year long. All they've done all year long is scheme up ways to get Tyron Bradley in pass coverage. DJ Giddens turned him around on an angle route earlier tonight that absolutely just flipped him completely, totally upside down. So, it's wild, man. It's wild. Oh, no. I accidentally banned Sanjo and Banjo on accident just now. Sanjo and Banjo, I did not mean to do that. I was trying to scroll, and I accidentally I'll figure out a way to unban it. I am so sorry. There was a total accident on there. But I'm sorry. So anyway, say all that to say, obviously, we need a change. It's time. I tried to hold out. I've tried to hold out as long as I could, guys. But unfortunately, Neal has not worked. I think that's probably putting it pretty mildly. Let's look at the stats in this game here, guys. Well, let's go to break really quick. and then we'll come back and we'll talk about everything Neal did wrong. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find qualified professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who are actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. We're back. We're back here on Locked On West Virginia. So obviously, I'm upset. I'm mad. I'm big mad. Let me change my background here. There we go. As you can see in the first segment, one of the big things we say in recovery is if nothing changes, nothing changes. And it's a simple concept, but Neal Brown really seems to want to live by the nothing changes mantra. Last week against Iowa State, I was upset because we kicked 2 field goals in a game we were the underdog in, right? Like, I get it. You got to get points in situations, and I get that. But you look at the stats. We're as good as it gets on 4th down and have been this year, whether that's for scheme, whether that's him drawing up plays, whatever you want to call it. We've just been able to muscle people around inside 3 yards this year. And I felt against Iowa State for the first field goal that got missed, the second field goal that got made, both were downs where you could have went for it and needed to if you were going to stay in that game. And those ended up being 2 huge, in my opinion, drives where you weren't very aggressive. And Neal turned into what he hasn't been in games where he's favored. So I'm trying to paint a picture for you of how Neal is in big games versus how Neal is in games that are equal or don't matter, because he's different in them. And I don't know if analytics will say that, but to my eye, somebody who completely obsesses about West Virginia 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, there's not a day of my life that I don't think about the Mountaineers for multiple hours. It's pretty sad, actually. So I pay attention to this probably on a really ridiculous level. And there are things that Neal does that I can't explain. For instance, that call right before the half, right? Can anybody raise your hand in the class if you know how many seconds were on the clock when that play got in, when it went in? Let me get a drink really quick, and then somebody tell me how many seconds were left on the play clock for the team when he sent that play in right before half on the 4th down. Does anybody know? Because it was less than 8. They had 8 seconds to – he had 8, 10, 9, 10, 8, 9, 8, 9 or 10 seconds to call the play, line up, and run the play on 4th and 1 right before the half. He just folds under pressure, guys. It's why the calls that he makes never make sense. You know what they call it? They call it the clutch gene. Hell to Pitt, I appreciate you, the super chat. I need to fix that. I'm actually not supposed to take them anymore. So I'm not even supposed to read comments anymore, but I do appreciate your super chat, even if it is about Pitt. So it kind of threw me off there. But yeah, so Neal folds under pressure. What did they call it for Jordan? The clutch gene, right? Neal doesn't have the clutch gene. You know who has the clutch gene? I'll tell you who's got the clutch gene. And his daddy used to coach at West Virginia, and he's got Indiana at 6-0, and we could have had him. Unbelievable to see what those guys are doing right now. Oh, Larry B, basketball will be on this channel now. Who's from the Hills, I am no longer a part of, but I will be doing basketball on this channel. very frequently, very, very frequently. So please don't give up on me. I will be doing basketball just as often as I do football. We're almost done with it here. Um, so obviously we could have had Kurt Signetti, and he got up in the press conference the other day and said, he in answer, and Coos let me know about this earlier. I didn't even know about this, which is so cool. I went back and watched it. They asked Kurt Signetti, what do you tell people about recruiting to Indiana? You know his response was, Google me. I win. That's what I want in a freaking head coach. That's what I want in a head coach. Not, did you have fun? There's no killer instinct. There's no Kobe Bryant in there. There's LeBron there. There's not Kobe. There's not MJ there. Like, you've got to have a killer instinct at the top. Nick Saban had it. He knew how to kill you whenever you thought you had a chance. 99% of the time, he knew how to put the foot on the throat. Neal knows how to reverse it. Like up in big games, like against Pitt, 10-point, you're up 10 points. He knows how to, like the song says, tuck it, flip it around, and reverse it, or whatever the heck that song is. There was some nice weather today. Absolutely, Carson. So, I'm ranting, guys. But I think if you just look at the pieces, I wanted to believe that we were cursed, but it's so far into the weeds now on how much bad luck we have. Like, I don't even want to call it luck. It's small things. It's like, okay, please forgive me for another recovery reference, but it's where my knowledge base is a lot. Before somebody relapses, there's what they call a mental relapse. And you don't, before you ever take a substance, there's a mental relapse, right? You decide. And before that happens, there's a small series of missteps that lead to even that decision. Similarly, with the football team, there's a small series of missteps that maybe we don't all see that lead to the product we see on the field, right? You look at it on the field, there's tip balls we never get. When's the last time you've seen a team fumble it and just us recover it? I can't remember. We've had a couple of fumbles here and there. Like Joseph in the end zone tonight gets his hands on that ball right before the tight end brings it in and catches the touchdown. It's like that, but it's like that all the time. It's like probably 95% of the time, that's the play that happens to us. It's the tip ball on 3rd and 18 versus Penn State in the first game of the year. That ball that got tipped and went behind us on 3rd and long when we were in that game. In multiple instances, it's Holstein getting away from a sack on 4th down on the last drive of the game. More than one. It's tonight, right? Their quarterback on a drive that we needed, getting away on 4th down when we had a chance to we would have him in our own territory right after we scored. Unbelievable stuff, man. So if it's boring, Pitt, I'll just go ahead and put you time out. It's all good. So for me, I'm over it, obviously, but I think we need to make the move before the year's over. That's what I think. And I have not always been a big proponent of that, because my logic before today was, if you fire Neal Brown in the middle of the season, you're not really gaining an advantage on other schools because schools aren't hiring yet. And you take away you're probably your best offensive game planner, even though they haven't been great this year. I mean, Neal still knows. It's not like you don't know anything. He knows how to game plan. And he knows how to call offense. We've seen him call offensive games that look good before. It's not like he can't do it, but he hasn't been doing it consistently. And so I thought, like, maybe there was just more negatives than positives to firing somebody in the middle of the year. I think this team needs somebody else in the interim spot for the rest of the year. And Neal, this fan, they just needs to be done with Neal Brown. Put Chad Scott there in that seat, or put Blaine Stewart in that seat. I don't know. Probably not Blaine because he just got here. I'll tell you another guy, Vic, that just came over, Cabral. He would be somebody cool to see in that seat. I'm not falling for it again, Lightsell Barnes. Said they could win out, though, seriously. Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. Somebody help me. Somebody come on here and talk for a minute before I blow up. And also, guys, prayers are with all the injuries tonight on both sides. I don't know if they had any, but obviously Garrett, Wyatt, TJ, who was a warrior for us tonight. I could tell he was limping. I texted him earlier today. He told me that he didn't even know at I texted TJ at, let's see here. Let's see, at 1:04 p.m. and he didn't know yet if he was going to play. I talked to another player, and the game plan was supposed to be a lot more that I formation that we saw. So I don't know what happened with that either, but I don't know if the game needed to go a certain way for them to do all that or what. But up next on Locked On West Virginia, I'm going to continue to gripe and complain. We're going to give some final thoughts, and maybe even talk a little bit about the basketball game last night. If you guys want to change your pace, just let me know in the comments while I'm reading this ad. Yes or no? Do you want to talk about basketball or football? Do you want me to gripe some more about football? Just let me know. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has tickets for all events, concerts, and shows, not just sports. But there's a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets easier, and you can see your favorite teams play. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. You can look at seats before you buy, and then there's always the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase, and download the Game Time app today, and then ask yourself, what time is it? It's game time. All right, guys, we're back. Is there plain jokes? I didn't see plain jokes, Bill. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say, let's see, to be honest, from everyone talking about how our players were top notch before the season, ESPN, they're well below average. Neal is 2 years past fired, as bad as it is. It's a total rebuild to fix. Well, look at Deion. Look at Indiana in year one, Stephen. I don't think you can even call it a rebuild anymore. Look at what Deion was last year at Colorado. They won 4 games. Now look at him this year. They're hot. Like, they really probably should have beat Kansas State last week, and we just seen how good they are. Like, he's in year 2. Now, he gets great recruits. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're going to recruit to that level at West Virginia just because we're not, unless we get Nick Saban. This was not going to happen. But that would be the only way we would ever recruit to that level, or maybe a Jimbo, but I wouldn't even trust that. So I don't know if rebuild is the word anymore, because like I said, you look at Signetti, it's around the country. You can look at team after team after team after team after team, even Sonny Dykes in his first year at TCU going 11-1, or 10-2, whatever they were. It's possible. So the right coach has to come in. You have to make the right call. And one thing about Ren Baker, So far, he has absolutely nailed every coaching hire in his career. Neal Brown doesn't really warrant a coaching hire. It was an extension, but it was based off of good results. So I don't consider Neal Brown that. And he came in during a really turbulent time. It was the whole Neal Brown thing is, in my opinion, is an asterisk for Renbaker. But every basketball hire he's ever made has been not just good, it's been great. I think Darren DeVries will be. Obviously, Kellogg might be before. I mean, look what they're doing. Absolutely crushing it. I trust Renbaker to make a good hire. I really do. As long as we can have the money to pay him, which is a whole other topic, obviously. And Neal has to be fired. I didn't say I trusted him to make a good decision in firing Neal Brown. I said I trust him to hire somebody else. Those are two different things. You know what I'm saying? But I'll say this: Kurt Cignetti is my guy now. After what they've done in Indiana, I was in on Schumann big time at Georgia, and I still am. He's really young. It's probably not going to happen. Cignetti's at Indiana, and here's the reason I think you could possibly sell him still. Just hear me out on it. Obviously, they're rolling right now in year one, and maybe that's enough for him to stay. Fair enough, if it is. But I'll say this. At West Virginia, you don't have to play Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, right? In Indiana, you do. What's the ceiling at Indiana? Who knows? Maybe he turns it into a powerhouse. It's happened before. You know, Frank Beamer was at Virginia Tech before they were good. Steve Spurrier was at Duke before he turned them into a good team. Florida State, he turned them they were turned into a good team, not by Spurrier, but another guy. It happens. So I think Cignetti, look what he did to James Madison. It goes without saying. And that's coming from, they were in 1AA or whatever you want to call it, FCS, and then into Division I to do what they did. Come on. And now to be 6-0 at a place like Indiana, which is traditionally a Kansas type program in the Big Ten, is, to me, just an unfathomable feat. Now, we just have to see where it ends up, but I'm sold on him now. Even if they lose 3 or 4 games the rest of the way, man, give me Cignetti. And the reason I think you can convince him, like I said, number one, it's documented that he wants to right the wrong that with his dad's tenure at West Virginia. The Cignetti name has kind of been smeared at West Virginia. He could right that wrong. Number two, you don't have to walk through the worst case scenario, Utah, right? Or whoever, Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas State, maybe UCF if they get going, but in the Big 12, it's a notch down. So even at the best, like even the way Iowa State's playing this year, I wouldn't say they wouldn't be a top 4 Big 10 team or BYU. So the path to the playoff is easier. So I don't know. Let's look at these stats really quick, guys, before we jump off here. 45-18 final score, just an embarrassing score. Colorado, a team that won 4 games last year, almost beat the same K-State team last week. This is a K-State team that went on the road to BYU, who's really good, don't get me wrong, and got pounded by 30 plus. So it's not like this is a Kansas State team that was killing it. Like they had a bunch scored on them last week, albeit against a good Colorado team, it's come to find out. So Avery Johnson, 19-29, basically 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. Made him look like John Elway. Jadon Jackson had almost 100 yards receiving, and what's crazy is he had nothing before the game. Made him look like an absolute superstar. Keegan Johnson had 3 catches. Ty Bowman had 3 catches, but they had short fields all day, guys. Really, they did. And he just spread it around to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players. 11 different players caught a ball. I mean, that's just absolute obliteration. Come on. And then on the West Virginia side, Garrett Green was 9 of 19 for 85 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Nico came in and was 6 of 13 for 58 yards and a touchdown. That tells me nothing either way. I mean, it was garbage, basically cleanup. Now, Garrett was 88 yards on 10 carries and was a warrior, but you can't excuse, like I said earlier, the receivers did those first 2 balls of the game. If we complete that first ball to Jaheim White of the game, which was drawn up beautifully, called beautifully, it was the right play for the coverage. I think that could change. The plays like that change the game. The momentum is a real thing in football. So, if he makes that catch, who knows what happens on the first drive or 2. And then you look at the Traylon Ray missed catch, and those are 2. That's 40 yards. And then obviously he missed the streaking down when on the pick 6. That's another thing. They had a pick 6, so really they scored 38. Cole Taylor had 4 catches, averaged 15 yards a catch. Traylon Ray had 4, could have had a lot more if they didn't hold him so many times. Hudson Clement had 4 for 29. Jaheim had 1 for 8. Rodney 1 for 8. CJ 1 for nothing. And that's what I mean. Like a guy like Rodney Gallagher, who was so highly rated, one of the best players in the state of Pennsylvania, has come in and done absolutely nothing this year, guys. I don't want to say that. I can see here too. I was expecting more. And unfortunately, it just hasn't come to pass. And I hate talking about these guys because I love them. But Michael Hayes has been the most consistent player. He's missed 1 field goal. So, I don't know, guys. It's frustrating, isn't it? But at the end of the day, change has got to be made somewhere, somehow. I don't think it's going to happen. I think I want it to happen, but I don't think it's going to. The next game is on October 26th. Against Arizona on the road. It'll be a battle of 2 struggling teams in that game. You got to favor Arizona at this point, but I mean, I don't know how we're going to guard the best player in the country unless he's hurt. Tack McMillan, probably not going to be able to guard him. The best receiver in the country anyway, him and Hunter 1 and 2, but stick with me. I know you're not going to want to watch. There's 400 people in here right now, and I'm just asking you. Don't leave me. I'll try to make things as interesting as possible. I'll exhaust every resource and source that I have to try to keep you updated on if there's going to be a change in coaching. And I promise I won't lie to you. That's the only things I can promise, that I'll work really hard. I won't lie, and I never have anyway to begin with. But there is a fair amount of that on here, so, or at least leading you the wrong direction sometimes. So I promise you, if there's going to be a change made, you'll know about it as soon as I do. But I don't think it's going to happen yet. I still think that Wren is not an emotional knee-jerk type guy, and I know it's 6 years, but he's looking at this as just this season. And I imagine that he's going to at least have the next 2 or 3 games to try to get this thing right. And we'll see what happens then. But if this team loses 2 or 3, or maybe the next 3, or maybe they go, I don't want it to happen. I still don't want us to lose, guys. I know it's counterproductive to what we want to happen, but I can't root against those players. I just can't, But I think Wren's going to give Neal a chance to dig out of the hole. We'll see if he does. Jordan Leslie is another matter. I think you seriously have to consider maybe promoting somebody else to defensive coordinator now. Here's the way I look at this. I don't know as a fan 100% if it's the Jimmies and Joes, or if it's the X's and O's, or if it's how it's being presented to them. But something's wrong with the secondary. The way the run defense performed today, and the linebackers alongside of that, it wasn't just good, it was elite at times. And the fact that you had them bottled up, and obviously you were playing to that and trying to make the kid beat you with his arm, and I get that. But football is a game of chess, and when they're going to pass it, and when they're not most of the time within reason. and you call different coverages based on that. It's not like you were loading up the box on all 3 downs every play. And so I just don't understand how they were able to just beat us deep like that so many weeks in a row. It's happened against Pitt. It's happened against Penn State in the first game, obviously. It happened in this game. It happened last week against Iowa State. We heard busted coverages. We hear not communicating. And I get that we've had some injuries, but every team has injuries. Obviously, Aubrey was out. That's a big communicator. I get that. And so is Garnes, who had been playing a little better. But last week we got torched too, and those guys were there. So it's been a problem no matter who's been there. Josiah Trotter absolutely has been the most consistent guy. Him and TJ, along with Tyron Bradley at times, and I still think and Trey Lathan has been good at times as well, in my opinion. Although he when he's gone away at times, I still think they all have bright futures. I don't think it'll be with us, but we'll see. If the right guy comes in, maybe so. But I think you got to really seriously think about Jordan Leslie as well being gone. Maybe if you're not going to fire Brown right now, I think you at least have to demote or fire Jordan Leslie and give somebody else a freaking chance to call the defense, because it just can't get much worse. Just can't get much worse. I mean, you're not able to stop a guy who everybody said before the year was basically like Garrett Green. He struggles to throw the ball. Frustrating. It's real frustrating. What do you mean the GG bash for W fans is crazy, Lotso? Are you being serious, man? He played terrible. He was terrible. Come on, brother. I mean, look, he put his heart out there for us, and I'm not bashing him from a perspective of I love him. It's like if my son kept making the same mistake over and over. Doesn't mean I don't love him, but I can't let you make that mistake anymore. You know, it's like the Chael Sonnen thing. I can't let you get close. I can't let you get on the field anymore right now. Like if I'm going to lose embarrassingly, I'm at least going to play some guys like Day Farmer and Nico Markey on the process. Why do I want to play Garrett Green and get beat 40? What was it? I've already forgot the score. 45-18. You know, like I'm just not going to do that, man. Well, that's a lie. I appreciate that you're trying to defend Garrett Green here, but you're just off on it, man. In my opinion, it's Garrett Green he's running his coach's offense, sure, but they showed it on the monitors tonight. He missed several throws that were wide open. Cole Taylor was open for a while until he started scrambling, and looking back at the play, I think he just took off before pressure actually got there and then got hit. But on the touchdown to Cole Taylor, he got hit, rolled up on Wyatt Milam. So that I think he was just playing a little scared tonight too. Yeah, he got hit a bunch. But not scared, just rattled. That's a bad word for it. But and then obviously in the pick six, that's one of those plays where first of all, it's a really long throw, and he's got a lot of arm talent as far as how hard he can throw it. But he has Garrett's the kind of quarterback. The reason for one of the big reasons you want him to be a 1 or 2 read guy, not only because he can run it, it's because playing quarterback from the mental side of things is not exactly where he thrives. Like Peyton Manning obviously would use signals and sounds and cadences and his eyes and motion and all that to maneuver people open, right? Garrett's not that kind of dude. Like he's going to call the play that's called. He's going to do the motions that are called. They had just now given him some permission recently, I think, to make some changes on the field. But, like, he's not the guy that's going to move coverage over or, like, he's generally going to throw one of the first or second read, generally. So, unfortunately, it's, not for him. So, I don't like it, but that's the way it is. And I don't think Nico's there yet either because he just hadn't enough playing time, but we'll see. All right, guys, I got to get off here. I've been going too long. I appreciate you guys for all being here. There's over 400 of you in here right now, and I'd love to talk longer. But I'll be posting tomorrow on Sunday. I'll be doing a pre-recorded one once we watch the game. I'm gonna all the things that I saw Neal Brown do that I don't agree with, like the call right before half where he got the play call in. They had 8 seconds to run a play. Certain things he's done on short down and distance, all the calls. I'm going to get all that stuff together and just kind of make a list of things that kind of boggle the brain. And I'll probably go back to Iowa State for it just because it's a point in big games. I think he just crumbles under pressure in big games with play calls, with certain strategy, and guys that don't have an advantage over him. So I appreciate all you guys. I really do. And love y'all, man. I really do. And Steven, it wasn't a good night to judge Nico. It really wasn't. He had three starters on offense were out. His left tackle was out. It was a bad game. You were down. Defense was saw blood. I don't think it was the right game for that. But guys, stick around. We'll talk tomorrow. Until then, have a good night. This episode's over. And I'm out.